This will be an analysis on characterization in the Naruto universe. It's what I like to personally call crowd control. So basically this means that we're looking at how Masashi Kishimoto handles his numerous cast of characters. And the purpose of this video is to shed light on what he's doing and hopefully will help any aspiring authors or writers. So to start it off, what we see is that in the Naruto series there are quite a lot of characters, but not every character receives equal narrative focus or development. And what we see is that some characters serve more of a specific goal that the author needs them to achieve. And quite quickly you would notice that Masashi Kishimoto is a utilitarian writer when it comes to his characters, where he uses characters in such a manner that serves to either to enrich the narrative and emphasize thematic elements so that the story can progress in meaningful ways. And this utilitarian concept is very much evident when you are looking at the Konoha 11. So we'll make an example of Tenten, where I believe her most important showings are when she fights Temari and the way Kishimoto uses her to highlight the strength and prowess of Temari and overall the Sand Village, because it had already been established that Kankuro was some type of a threat. And then of course Temari was next, and then finally with Lee you have Gaara. And so of course, knowing the future events of the Konoha crush, we in hindsight understand why they were depicted in such a cruel way and why Tenten was beaten to such a degree, even though the Hidden Leaf and the Hidden Sand were supposed to be allies at the time. And so while Gaara's animosity towards Lee can be rounded off as a more personal issue, Temari's animosity can be viewed as hints of the oncoming betrayal of the Hidden Sand towards the Hidden Leaf. Tenten is also a strategically sound character, and so her defeat by Temari elevates Temari's status in that category and is used to build up her eventual encounter with Shikamaru, and serves to emphasize later on just how intelligent Shikamaru is in comparison. And then again, Tenten is used to give commentary on the fight between Naruto and Neji, and through Tenten's observations, the readers can learn more about Neji's gentle fist and his backstory. And so what we see with Tenten is not much. She doesn't play a massive role in the series and is used in such a utilitarian way. And so of course I am aware of how current day criticism is of storytelling, where such utilization of characters can be viewed as a shortcoming rather than a positive, to the extent that people would use words like underutilization. And so of course I understand that these critics also might not know that they are inadvertently feeding into a bad habit that exists among new authors, usually exists among new authors, where they introduce characters and they feel like they have to explore each and every character that they introduce. But then at the end of it all, when someone else is reading that story and asks them, why are we following this character? What do they have to do with the themes of the story? Or rather, what is the overall purpose in the story that you yourself said was about X or Y? And then what you see with these new authors is that they don't know why they did that. They simply explored these characters because they didn't want to underutilize them, which is why I say that the definition of utilizing a character needs to be far more vast than how restrictive it is right now. Where we see right now, we have an example of Tenten and how she plays such a minor role in the Naruto series, and yet she is used to enhance the narrative dynamics between the characters and to foreshadow future events. Although this goes beyond Tenten and even is something that happens with the enemies in the Naruto series. An example of this being Kintsuchi, who was Shikamaru Nara's opponent in the Chunin exams. And her character was not deeply developed in any way, but her role is crucial in highlighting Shikamaru's growth and potential as a shinobi. But she's also used to show Orochimaru's evils, so to speak, and cruelty towards other people and how he views them. And of course this kind of elevates in the end to show off how this world of the Naruto series views shinobi as tools. This can also be seen with her teammate Dosu, where he outright states that the reason why they're in the Chunin exams is for the sake of pushing Sasuke, testing him and developing him. And so overall, their team's role and existence in the story is to be fodder for other characters' growths. And so what we find with Kishimoto's writing is that he doesn't leave these characters there with that being it. So they're not only plot devices to serve these roles, but he goes on to further give them character motivations and to make them feel human although their roles overall are minor, where we see with going back to Tenten that she idolizes Tsunade and wishes to be a ninja of that caliber. And you see with Dosu where he refuses to be used as a tool and yet ultimately is still killed in the end by Gaara. And so this positive that Kishimoto puts in where he makes the characters feel like real people in the context of the Naruto story can also be viewed as a negative from the reader's point of view, where the reader can gain an interest in said character and their motivations and want to see them play out those goals that they have, just for them not to be explored in the end. And so from a writing perspective, I'm very happy that Kishimoto's not making the same mistakes that we see with other young authors. But from a reader's perspective, I can understand how people can say that they want to see more of these characters that they've gained interest in. But of course, I can't view this as a bad thing, because an author can't really gleam into the minds of their readers and know that this is what they would want. And so you can only write what you write and see the results of it in the end. And so for future authors and writers observing this, maybe you can see how you felt from this method of writing and see if you would change it because perhaps you personally did not like it, or maybe you did like it and choose to emulate it. Ino and Sakura's love rivalry for Sasuke was also positioned in a way that it felt like comedic relief, but then as time went on, we saw that they both personally grew to a relationship of mutual respect and camaraderie. But I wanted to point out how, in a funny way, this is still tied to the greater themes in Naruto, where we see that they start hating each other because they're after the same man. And this goes into the theme of the cycle of hatred, but it's a far less serious version of this. And we also see this less serious versions of the cycle of hatred with Deidara as a character in Shippuden, where Deidara's whole shtick is that he loves art and he wants to basically kill Sasuke and Itachi because they don't respect his art. They don't give any reaction towards it. They're too cool, as he says. And so this feels like such a rubbish reason for him to hate somebody, and also for Ino and Sakura, it feels like such a rubbish reason to begin hating and break up a friendship over a boy. But in a funny way, it still points back to the cycle of hatred in the Naruto series and how much of a problem it is that even such insignificant issues can blow up to become such serious issues, especially when you really think about the fact that Sasuke fighting Deidara was an issue that he did not need to go through in any way, shape or form outside of Deidara's wants to prove himself. But of course, with Ino and Sakura, their ending also pushing forward that setting aside these differences and working together would be a better result to their conflict. And so that shows that either intentionally or unintentionally, or what I would rather say subconsciously, throughout the Naruto series, Kishimoto, even in light-hearted moments, kind of keeps in with the themes of the story. Not light-hearted moments, but rather light-hearted motivations. And it's in this moment where I realized that there's actually a lot of examples that can be made, and to lord over everyone and say that this is going to be an actual analysis across the board of the Naruto series is kind of an insane task to make, because there's so many characters I can still name, like the tuning exams proctor being used to show the strength of the Hidden Sand Village again, or later on in Shippuden, Motoi's role in shaping Naruto's understanding of the Hidden Leaf Village's side of the story, and the guilt they probably felt towards how they treated Naruto. Kurena's role in helping Hinata and to show the consequences of losing a loved one on the battlefield, that there are people that are left behind in the end, all of which are like minor roles but serve a purpose in the story. With the main point of the analysis seeing that Kishimoto uses his characters in a very utilitarian way, where even though they contribute in a minor way, they still are contributing, and that's the fact of the matter. And of course, this doesn't mean that Kishimoto is some type of mastermind writer that knows that, oh, when I introduce this one character, I'm only going to use them for this little while and then throw them out and bring them back whenever I actually need them again. But also, we have to look into the situation in which he's writing, where he's publishing a story and this publisher has character rankings. And so what could be happening as well is that maybe Kishimoto introduces a character, that character isn't well liked, and so whatever that character's role or what they were going to learn or whatever they were going to be was cut out of the story because people did not enjoy that character for what they saw at the time. And so their roles were given to a new character that was created, so that character can serve that purpose. And of course, Kishimoto is not the only author that uses the characters in such a way. We also have Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, where the characters Boromir and Faramir are used to show the theme of temptation and the corrupting influence of power, and how Boromir falls to the temptation of the ring is meant to highlight the fragility of men. In A Song of Ice and Fire, you have the character of Renly Baratheon, where we see that his character is shown to garner favor because of his charisma and basically public favor because of that, and yet his journey is short-lived in the story. We also see this with the character of Piggy in The Lord of the Flies, but this just makes me realize that I need to read more manga. Depending on this audience, I'm not sure if these examples really mean much. Well, with that being said, the purpose of this video was to highlight different methods that you as an author, if you are an aspiring author, can handle characters in your stories, and to know that there are different ways. And I wonder if I will make videos on the different ways I've seen executed in the manga world, and we can see that through maybe how One Piece handles its characters. And I'm mostly talking about extended casts of characters, not necessarily how the main characters are handled. And so, of course, as I said before, this was a very focused example on utilitarianism in terms of writing. And so that does not mean that any other way is wrong or is better, but it's very focused on the story that is being written and how it overall serves that story. And if you're an aspiring author, that you should take this into account before you start writing, so that your story can be more cohesive and consumed in the way that you want it to be consumed by the readers. I'm just rambling right now. I didn't expect this video to take a turn. While I was writing the script, I realized that, actually, there's so many characters and examples that can be made, and to say, like, let's make an analysis would have been way too much in the end. And so I can just stop right now.